And away we go. All right then. So let's see what me, Eric, or Risk have sent in our podcast group chats. Whatever floats about in the stratosphere, or whatever digitally is embedded into our pop cultural minds. Firstly, I've sent a Twitter X post this is in Korean characters, so I'm not going to attempt that because I would be wrong either way. At Hidden Signals X, and the post reads $Joby sprinkle emoji. Dubai's VDX has become the world's first commercial vertiport, purpose-built for eVTOL operations to receive regulatory certification. Certified by the UAE General Civil Aviation Authority (GCAA), world's first certified commercial eVTOL vertiport, Joby Aviation secured exclusive rights in 2024 to operate eVTOL air taxi services in Dubai for 6 years. VDX will serve as the central hub of Dubai's planned air taxi network. Skyports is developing 3 additional vertiports. The 3,100 square meter facility includes 2 landing pads, fast charging infrastructure, and passenger facilities, designed to handle up to 170,000 passengers annually. The certification marks another milestone towards launching commercial eVTOL air taxi services in Dubai. I had been looking about on Twitter X about urban air mobility in general, and every time I searched for that particular search term on Twitter X, in the last few days, and in this current week or last week, I've heard a lot about Joby Aviation, the company behind these eVTOL air taxi vehicles. And by the scenes of things and the certification that this company has granted so far, it looks promising. We're still years away before you can take an air taxi to go from one place to another place anywhere in the world. It is a good start. I have seen one social media post arguing that there are people, which there will be, who are skeptical about vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, mainly in regards to safety of being in that vehicle to begin with, especially since this is commercial. Like, people that are members of the public, at some point they're going to use these vehicles to get from place to place. And I've heard weeks ago a famous music artist from the United States, Oliver Tree, he was planning to, or was in the middle of doing his tour all over the world, the Americas, Europe, etc. He was, last time I remember, he was in Rio. Not sure. I'd assume he was there doing a show, part of his tour. He took a helicopter ride with a well-known Argentine YouTuber, Gaspi, and other notable Argentine names from the nation, and they all got onto a helicopter in Rio. Unfortunately, that helicopter that these lads were on collided with another helicopter. It's in a neighborhood in the city of Rio de Janeiro. And unfortunately, all those lads did not make it out of that crash alive. And by the time their bodies were found, regardless of paramedics and other health experts great abilities, there wasn't anything that they could do to revive them. That is one incident regarding air travel, urban air mobility, that people will point to in regards to why there would be people that would be skeptical about vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. And yes, helicopters are considered a VTOL vehicle, vertical takeoff and landing. And you know what? I don't blame these people for being so skeptical about the safety of the VTOLs or eVTOLs specifically in this case. So surely, even when there is certification being granted to Joby Aviation for their rollout of their aircrafts, people will point fingers towards the safety of these vehicles. Hopefully that there isn't going to be casualties coming from this company or just the broader vertical takeoff and landing sector as a whole. So there's going to be hurdles safety-wise in that aspect, and that is very important to address and worth discussing in the future. Personally, I hope that these vertiports and urban air mobilities take off, no pun intended, and they do very well in the grand schemes of things, and hopefully such concepts and infrastructure expands to other countries around the world. There is so much potential in regarding to vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. And imagine if there is local governments in, well, at least for now, most Western countries, if they have the budget to even put up such facilities and infrastructure for vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, there is so much economical benefits if such an infrastructure was put in place, like Dubai is doing, with getting to and from their international airport. So this is a good start. It's a long way to go, but still a very good start. Next, I sent a Instagram reel, and this is quite dark, very dark. Yet it does tell a very important message. I will play the audio of that video.
A farmer threw a dead pig into a well, and within a short time, 70 to 80 rats jumped into the well to eat it. In the beginning, everything seemed easy. The moment they saw food, they all rushed toward it. But after eating, they realized that the walls of the well were so high and steep that getting out was almost impossible. Slowly, the food ran out, hunger increased, and that same place turned into a battlefield. In the fight to survive, the rats turned on each other. They started killing and eating one another. And after some time, only one rat was left in the well. Its eyes were red like blood. Then the farmer lowered a rope, pulled it out, and released it back into the fields. Did the farmer feel sympathy for it? Absolutely not. The farmer knew that this rat had now become addicted to eating its own kind. It would no longer eat grain. Instead, it would hunt other rats. And this is what divide and rule, or the divide trap, really is. The people sitting at the top never fight themselves. They simply create an environment where the people below keep fighting each other and destroying one another. Whenever two people fight each other, the benefit always goes to the third person, or to the one sitting behind everyone, controlling the entire game. Understand this game, otherwise you are also inside the same well.
That is so accurate. And you know, the same can be said, although not as extreme as that video describes, can be applied in society today and how we look at information online about what goes on in the world, devastations that shouldn't have happened to begin with, yet lives have been lost, very sadly, and how particular stories could be spun in ways to, although still describe the story as it is accurately, yet spin it to portray the meaning of that particular context to be made out as something completely different to what the actual story is. They're still on topic, However, the meaning and the context changes depending on how the story at hand is being told and being presented to people. And by providing continuous exposure of such content and material to people over the years and consistently over and over and over again, then of course people are going to be mad. People are going to be skeptical if this is going to happen to them as well. And of course, people, at some point, to some extent, if ever, will start to lash out at other people who think completely different to their own. That is scary. Again, there's no way such circumstances will ever be that extreme as the video I just played had been portrayed. Yet it does make a very valuable point about different environments that we're in and the outcomes that come about in our lives and what we do to ensure that we stay on top of our capabilities and we progress with our lives. So that is, it's very important to be made aware of. And that is all that has been sent in the chat since the last time I recorded a podcast episode. With that all being said, let's get right into the news. Nick Shirley strikes again, exposing alleged $190 million home care fraud in New York. Oh boy. On Friday, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz joined MAGA influencer Nick Shirley in New York City to confront facilities they allege are committing Medicare and Medicaid fraud, citing major red flags. Shirley's prior reporting on Minnesota businesses, which gained President Donald Trump's attention, pressured Governor Tim Walz to drop his re-election bid, setting the stage for this investigation. Shirley claims to have uncovered $190 million in fraud at daycare centers and pharmacies across Flushing, while Oz alleged 3 durable medical companies in one apartment generate $2 to $8 million a month. During their visits, Oz and Shirley confronted staff under false pretenses, often finding employees who appear confused or caught off guard, with many lacking knowledge of their facility's financial data. President Trump has made tackling fraud a major focus, though critics note he disproportionately targets Democrat-run states. Oz asserted durable medical supplies grow like vermin because it's easier to open one than a bank account. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying that this platform in question, which is Polymarket, is what's contributing to raising awareness of Nick Shirley's investigations. Yeah, I do wonder if these prediction betting markets like Polymarket and Kalshi had not existed, who have used their resources, and when I mean by resources, I'm talking about the users on their platforms betting money on whatever outcomes it is expected to happen, and then using that out and using these predictions and data to then post on their official social media accounts, presented as if they were news stories, not like they intended to be made out as news stories, yet they're using percentages and outcomes of whatever predictions on their platforms and presenting them on their social media accounts. And then there's lots of people that look at Polymarket and Kalshi's social media accounts observing these stories as they go, and then people betting money on what are the likelihood or what are the odds of this world leader igniting this order, what are the odds of this team being under investigation for what they have done, allegedly. And the point I'm making is, if Kalshi or Polymarket or other prediction-based betting market platforms had not existed, would I have still known about Nick Shirley and his undercover investigation journalism? Or would I still know about Nick Shirley from traditional social media platforms like Twitter X, Instagram, maybe Facebook of all places? Probably yes. I still would have known about Nick Shirley anyway. Yet, Polymarket and Kalshi, prediction-based betting markets, they've absolutely accelerated not just the reporting on these stories, yet they've also outlined the outcomes of the the local-wide leaders who are supposed to be in charge of running the states, the municipalities in which these events are happening. And again, I still believe that stories like this would have been made known if if vaccine markets based on predictions had not been a thing now. Yet the existence of these platforms have absolutely accelerated such stories to become mainstream and widely known across social media. And this is only the beginning. And I know many people will not agree with this, that Polymarket and Kalshi aren't just the future of betting. To some extent, it is widely argued that these platforms could also be the future of journalism. Like, given the data and how people bet money on these predictions on their platforms, and then these platforms using their social media accounts to post these predictions as if they were news stories, like what's the context of this story and what are the likelihoods that whatever outcome is going to happen, that's a whole new layer of getting your information on anything that goes on in the world. That's my perspective, and that's what I think how information would eventually be presented in the next few years, if continuing on the pace which it's going at. So yeah. In regards to what's the investigation in New York with Medicare and Medicaid, it's not looking good. So unfortunate. And although I will agree with the argument that Democrat-run cities and states are the primary targets of these investigations, that's a fair point. I'm wanting to hear if investigations like that are also done in Republican-run cities and or states. We'll have to wait and see. However, I will say that that's a good argument that investigations of such caliber and such criminality is done at specific places that are run by a specific political party. It would be great if there are other places of different political parties running these cities and states, if the investigations are done in those places, if there is a pattern, if there is any difference in what the governance and operations are like, that would be important to at least acknowledge. Until then, for places that are Democrat run, that is not a good look. Even if there are people in the Democrat Party that they sound logical, they are well spoken, and they are nothing like the people that's running these scandals or fiascos and so on. Still, not everyone's going to look at that. Everyone's not going to look at particular groups of people that way. That is what the world has come to. England defeated Norway in extra time and are in the semi-finals of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, with Jude Bellingham as their star player, scoring twice. The Three Lions remain in contention for the World Cup and await the winner of the match between Argentina and Switzerland, which takes place Saturday night in Kansas City. After a 120-minute battle, England's coach Thomas Tuchel addressed his team. While pleased with the victory, he also acknowledged aspects of their performance that he didn't like and that need improvement. I didn't talk about suffering. I never have. Today, we made things incredibly difficult for ourselves, he told ITV. The result is fantastic. We're among the top 4. It's incredible, but I am not happy with the performance in every sense, he added. The commitment is there, but we're making things difficult for ourselves with the way we played. Imprecise, with many technical errors, lacking the necessary speed and consistency. Today we were lucky, a self-critical Tuchel admitted. When asked if it was due to the players' mentality, the German coach stated, "I don't know. It's not a question of mentality. If it were just mentality, you could bottle it and sell it. It's about quality. We have to play better." Regarding the substitutes who came on, the manager praised them. Reece James was excellent. Morgan Rogers was fantastic today. Eberechi Eze and Jed Spence gradually became more prominent as the game progressed. All the credit goes to them. Overall, we were lucky today, the manager stated. When asked about Jude Bellingham's performance, which would have proved crucial to the victory over the Nordic team, Tuchel lauded him. "There's no need to say more. He delivers in every match. He's world class." Looking ahead to the semi-final, while awaiting the opponent, the German player said, "We will improve. We have to. Now it's time to celebrate. Now it's time to enjoy the moment. We are 3 days. We'll need everything." Captain Harry Kane told BBC Sport, "It was a huge effort. It was tougher than the game in Mexico. The heat and humidity really affected us. We had to dig deep and find a way to pull through, especially in the second half and extra time. Determination and courage made the difference today." Wow. To say that match was tougher than what England had to go through in Mexico, against Mexico in Mexico City, Estadio Azteca, given the high altitude, damn, that is saying something. And of course, humidity is no laughing matter. The humidity is much more insufferable than the rays of the sun. And I know that because I'm on holiday where there's stronger heat rays from the sun than there is actual humidity, which I prefer than the actual humidity. And in regards to Tuchel and the England squad, honestly, if I was the England manager, I would have said the same thing. Even if you have a good performance on the field, there's always room for improvement. So I'm glad that Tuchel acknowledged that there is room for improvement and there are things that could have been better against Norway. So I respect Tuchel for that. It had to be said. And also, one more thing I would say. Regards to Argentina, I've heard so many social media posts about how FIFA are rigging the match, the tournament, trying to make sure that Argentina win, and any fouls committed by Argentina or Messi and any of the Martinezes, whatever fouls committed by the Argentine players, oh no, you can just go on about it. However, any fouls committed by team players from other teams, that the ref is like, nope, we're not going to allow it. That's what I've heard on social media, and yeah, for the most part, it's stupid. At least in regards to how blatantly obvious how you can make rules for one team, yet other teams have to follow a completely different set of rules. Not to mention the nationalities of these match officials against the nationalities of the teams which are facing against each other. Like, I've seen, like, the officials for the Norway versus England game, which just happened. 3 officials' nationalities were French and 2 were Spanish, and likewise for the Argentina versus Switzerland game, 3 officials' nationality is Portuguese. And there was another match which just happened. I think it was Morocco versus France. All the nationalities of the 5 match officials on the field were Argentina. And everyone on social media are going on a rant on all of those anomalies and obvious picks of these officials. And you know what? How can I be mad? I knew this was going to happen. Eric, if he was on here, he said this a while ago, and he said this many times. Sports is what keeps the mind distracted from whatever goes on in the world. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to enjoy sports and have a family outing enjoying sports or whatever. The issue is, if sports is the only part of your life, there is nothing else besides sports that you have to live for. And then without it, what do you have going for yourself? That's my argument and concern. You can enjoy spending time with family, watching sports, and cheering on for whatever team you want to win the title or the championship. Yet, when sporting events like as big as the FIFA World Cup goes on, surely there's going to be other stories in the world that's going to be flown under the radar because so many people are just enjoying the moment, which is great for people to have fun and be grateful for what there is in the world. Yet, you never know when you least expect that your life will change forever, and in a dramatic fashion too. The scale in which your life changes beyond our own comprehension. That is something. Public transport for residents of Porto will be free from this Friday to those who hold the Porto municipal card, announced the mayor, Pedro Duarte. From today onwards, public transport is free in the city of Porto for those who hold the Porto card, said Pedro Duarte at a ceremony held in the square in front of the Trinidad metro station. This was one of the main measures in the electoral program of the then candidate for the PSD/CDS-PP/IL coalition. In his speech, Pedro Duarte explained that those who already have the free pass up to the age of 23 don't need to do anything, but those who have the municipal card will have to go to a danch or pay shop store to update it, a process that takes seconds. For residents who do not yet have a Porto municipal card, then can apply online or by going to the citizen's office. The mayor also emphasized that the free transport allowance will be loaded annually. Nice. Not bad. Sounds very promising and very enticing for all local residents of Porto. They can use public transport without having to pay a single penny, cent, or centavo or something. Of course, there's going to be ever so surmounting excessive costs well, at least an amount and a massive cost for providing free transportation, public transportation for residents. Now, I'm just wondering. Now, well, it says this is free. I know that this is free public transportation for local residents. Does that mean, does this also apply to foreigners and tourists, or do they have to, or are they the only ones now that they have to pay for using public transit in Porto? Probably yes, because if you're going to make it free of charge for residents to use public transit, then where is the money coming from to cover the costs of maintenance of the tracks and the trams that run around, that go across the city, and the costs of the buses as well? Well, either way, surely everyone in Porto is going to be very pleased and thrilled by this. I don't see anyone in America or the United States ever doing this. They could, however, yeah, I see a lot of Fox News coverage saying free public transit. Is this the start? Is this the rise of communism? That's what I'm thinking. I have no problem. It's just, yeah, that's just what I think. I wouldn't be surprised if a story like that came about. It'd be pretty funny too, because yeah, that's Fox for you. So yeah, I will say that it sounds enticing to get free stuff, or at least free of charge to be provided with public transportation access. However, there is of course a cost to that, and quite the matter of how is enough money going to be made to cover the cost of maintenance for the tracks, the trams, and the buses. Surely people in the Porto Municipal Council will have figured that one out at some point before ever, like even before passing, saying that, oh, free of charge for public transit for Porto residents. They're going to have to figure that one out. They should have figured that out eventually. So yeah, that's just me. And that is it for the episode.